Good morning, everybody. It's the Dev Talk Show on November 14th, 2025. Um, Rich is here. We might have an abbreviated show, so how quickly do we want to get over to the screen and get moving? We're continuing forward with this approach of adding test-driven development capability to the application, but using an agent flow, which I'm still getting a handle on the terminology, Rich. So
Yeah, that's okay. So am I. Some of the stuff is like recently coming out, so all good there. Yeah, because we used to call it something called custom modes, and now this actually is something we have called custom agent, and that recently came out in the last couple of weeks. Um, so you configure custom agents. It's kind of listed there. I'm not sure if you're showing my screen yet, or
I will switch it right now.
awesome.
There we are.
So we can just kind of jump in.
Yeah.
Um, If you remember the last time we started to create our custom agent, and all of that is stored when we think about our project. We've got a GitHub folder here. Let me see if there's a. I don't have. Hang on. Power toys, and that's the wrong one. I went here. Power toys, because I knew my Zoom it. I was actually demoing to a customer yesterday and didn't have Zoom it, and I was very not happy. So let's close that. Let's see if that makes a difference. If I do this, it's still not on. Darn it. Um, da, da, da. Okay. All right. We're just going to run with it then. So if you see here, we have our GitHub folder. Our GitHub folder is where um, we store all kinds of things in this GitHub folder, right? When we're doing actions, we have the workflows folder there, and we use that to hold all of the actions we might create for a project, right? So inside of here, we're also doing things that Copilot can be aware of. So here we've got the start of some Copilot instructions, and this is essentially the content that would go with every request over to the GitHub Copilot to give it some context around what it is that it's is looking at. So I've got a definition here of the kind of an overview of what the project is, starting to outline some of the technology stack that's in there with Blazor and C#9 and things of that nature, or .NET 9 and using C#, I should say. And then there's all these sections here. So this is what a set of Copilot instructions would typically have. And these sections in here are things that you can either iterate with the Copilot to ask it and say, well, based on my project, help me define what this architecture overview is, and just kind of go back and forth on that. Information here on coding standards and naming conventions. All of this is things that can, when it goes ahead and generates code for you, can do it in the right way. So this is at a high level. This is for the entire repository, the entire solution that we've got here, essentially. But we can include specific things like what we were working on last week, on Wednesday, it wasn't that long ago. This here, which is our test-driven design coach. And this is a custom agent mode, although it says custom, they call it chat mode in the file definition. But either way, we give it a description on what it is that this is going to help us with. And I really wanted this to be a coach, because I'm trying to use this as an opportunity to really try out some test-driven design, which I haven't, aside from, trying things differently here and there. I wanted this to be that interaction. So it, is going to help me follow the rules, but it's also going to be a coach as I go through this. And what we started to do last week, or on Wednesday, is basically be able to implement a new feature. And we have metadata in the application. What we wanted to do was say, hey, could we implement a new page that's got a grid on it and has the ability to modify the values in the metadata? Can we change the display name? Can we change the sort order? Can we change, is it active or not? Can we add new items to the different metadata types that are in there? Not creating a brand new type, but actually adding it to things that are there. So one of the things, in thinking about it from yesterday's session to when I had some time yesterday, was what it was offering as suggestions didn't really make sense when you think about the context of how we're using metadata in the application. So, what do I mean by that? So, when we think about the way we've designed this, we have a metadata definition, and that metadata definition inherits from or implements the interface, I should say, of metadata item. So basically, all of those same properties exist in this metadata definition. So we have we have an interface that that we're basically implementing here on the metadata definition. Now that metadata definition is then used as a base class to create the specific definition type. So in this case, for our event status, we've got a class implementation that inherits from metadata definition and specifically sets the type to be event status type, right? So there's a way that we've structured this metadata in the classes and the inheritance um, and the base classes for this, that when Copilot was giving the suggestion for how we might build that test to test the metadata, it wasn't really understanding this. So what I included was this, which is a set of metadata instructions. So this is an understanding for whenever we have a conversation around metadata. And what is, that conversation around metadata means that these are the files that we're applying this set of instructions to. And it's the things that are related to the metadata, the models, the repository, the endpoints, anything where the metadata comes into play. And there is a definite separation of, hey, we're interacting with metadata because we're setting it or we're using it to pull in as a reference for a drop-down list, or the meetings, which have a completely different set of classes and implementations and things like that. So it made sense that we could have a set of instructions to say, hey, when we're talking about metadata, here's what you need to understand to be able to accurately comment or accurately provide suggestions around, well, what is it that we want to do? Okay. I'll pause there. We said a lot to kind of set all this up. So I'm sure there are questions that you have, or maybe we're getting some in the chat. Who knows?
Yeah, with the way things are set up now, I have to look a different way to look at chat for now. We're trying to fix to get back some of the tooling we had before that was really nice. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I realize now, and I had done a little bit of looking that last time we shared some documentation that was from GitHub.com, and I actually have something that I've put in the show notes. There's a in Visual Studio Code documentation. There's a custom agents in VS Code article,
Mhm.
and it's
Oh, cool.
describing this front matter approach that you're talking about. In fact, they actually do use that terminology that it's YAML front matter. Um, so it's a much wider world than I even realized about what you can tell the agent and even what it can do. So I'm still a little new, but I appreciate that what this is doing is, I think if I understood what you said correctly, it's trying to constrain this agent's, is it only, it's only focusing on what's in the apply to? Is that a correct way to look at it?
So I would kind of spin it a little bit, and it's
Okay.
it's providing context that
Oh, okay.
whenever I ask a question related to metadata
Yeah, okay.
and talking about any of those files that are in the applied to, it should bring this in and use that to help ground its knowledge.
Okay, because last time, this is
Yes.
related to last time where
Yeah.
it seemed to be in this world where it understood that you had metadata definitions, but then went off on its own saying, well, maybe you want it to look like this. And it's like, no, there's no maybe about it, right? I have
Right.
this. So,
Exactly. You're coming in after the fact here.
yeah. Okay.
And it said, well, what do you want the type to be? And I kind of paused on that. It's like, well,
Yes.
it's not metadata type. It's, well, because we separate meetings and metadata, they're different containers in our Cosmos database. But it just didn't feel, I couldn't remember exactly what it was because it's been a while since I looked at it. So that was why in between it's like, no, it's not metadata type. It's the type of the metadata class that is what it is. Um so that was when, so from when we did the session, uh interesting. Oh, okay. Let's do this. Let's go back and look through our history. And that's the one that we've got. da, da, da. Is this one? Can I control up for this? No. All right, hang on. Because what I want to do is kind of, that's the other one. Sorry. What I'm looking for here. So I did this one today, and maybe this is the full on. Oh, that's the instructions. I don't think it has all of the chat here. So what I was doing was I started to iterate through the process. And it's not that one. Let's try this one then. No, it's the same. Hang on. Oh, that one. Okay. Right. That's better. All right. So let's take this back up to the beginning, right? So now that I had the instructions file in there, I basically started the day off by saying, all right, let's do this. And make this a little bigger, right? And let's go through the process of doing something very specific. I reset everything. I basically did a new, go back to the previous Git release. It's like we're starting over. Let's talk through creating a new page to modify the metadata values, right? It should be its own page. I want a grid. So I want to use that Blazor grid control, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to set the active flags. It's a checkbox in the grid. I want to be able to change values. And then it's like, that's great. Let's talk through what that means. So there's a number of clarifying questions that get asked because I'm kind of thinking about this top of mind, and it's saying, well, that's great. And now it's starting to think about it. Well, how am I really going to do this? What don't I know that I'm going to need to know as I figure this out? So grid organization, right? How are we going to do this? What's the inline editing going to look like? What are the fields that we're going to include? What is that save strategy going to be? We're going to save the whole page. We're going to save in the individual row. We're going to save as I just move off the field. All of those things that you need to kind of think about for the requirements design are included in here. What do we want for validation, right? And then talking about the API service layer. So this is really focusing on the overall requirements before we actually start getting into the test. And then it talks about the high level structure, which, we'll come back to later. But the idea is we came back with some responses and I just basically said, hey, this is how I'm thinking about it, right? Also includes sort order because it didn't include sort order in that list, and that's kind of important. How do you want the metadata values to appear in the dropdown or in a checkbox list or what have you? Can we add values from an existing type? That's a typo. That's funny. So add values, but only to an existing type. So if you have an event type status, which we do, you could add a new type to that, but you can't create, let's say, ticket sales or whatever, some other kind of metadata in there, because that kind of implies that there's some new coding that needs to happen. So that was what basically we put in there. It liked what we did. It confirmed all the requirements. We had a little bit of back and forth because it didn't see sort order, but it was there. I told it where it was. Got it, basically passed in the metadata definition, right? You can see that here because I've got the file that has that piece in it. Said, look, it's here, and then answered the rest of its clarifying questions. Question? Or you're just following along? It's
No,
cool.
I'm
Either
just
way.
following along. Yeah.
Okay. So then we started going down the path of, well, let's go ahead and, it's looking at the endpoints that are there and all the different pieces and get to a point where it says, all right, this is how we think we want to start about this. And this is where we started to get into a little bit of a discussion around, hey, what should I be thinking about for the arrange portion of this test? And the arrange portion basically is going to give me a metadata object with some values in it, and they're using the builder
Yeah.
or build. I'm okay. I'm not sure whether that's what we want to do, but that certainly is the thing.
I
I don't know
feel
if you
like
have thoughts.
so it made is it am I right in saying that it seems to have made a decision that you kind of need a domain specific language to create definitions that you can then use and test quickly? Like, I understand that it's using like a builder type pattern, but what it's also
Yep.
doing is making it somewhat readable that I want to create an item and I'm going to
Yep.
do it with all these methods that I just throw data at it and it's done.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
And it's the kind of drudgery that maybe as a developer you just wouldn't do. You'd say, "Oh, it'd be nice if I had this," but you just don't do it.
right.
Next thing you know, you've written 100 tests
And it's
and
not
you've done
good.
so much
Yeah,
stuff manually. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not completely sold on this,
Okay.
and I think it's because, I've now I've gotta have, you basically have to have, when we can look at this test builders thing, but you've gotta have all of those properties that you want to share through there as properties in this test builder. And like, well, I've already created this stuff. Why am I recreating it? That's
Yep. It's
that's
another
my
thing to
initial
maintain.
reaction to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of got us to the point of me, asking, why. And that was what he's still going. A question for me, whether we want to do that builder pattern or not. Um,
Well, and it says it right
and
there. The
yeah,
builder pattern
exactly.
is cleaner, but requires the builder methods to exist.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Well, help me you're my coach, help me understand what's the right, what should I be thinking about with this?" So we kind of talk through, the fluent methods and the test builder, properties, and that is actually a look at what that test builder or what that builder definition is, right? So you can see we've got a with ID. Well, that's just basically pulling the ID property, and the with type is pulling the type property. So if I add a new property, I've got to now update this to make sure that it all works right, right? That seems like a lot. I mean, it's certainly, well, no, because I don't have to include all of these if I don't want to, right? I could leave the value off. I could and only include some of them. Uh, I'm all for test-driven development, but I also don't want to repeat myself. That's the struggle I always had with test-driven design. But or correct me if
I
I'm wrong.
think so. I think that getting
Yeah.
outside of it being a test driven development issue, this is a have I, whatever this particular object is, have I reached the point where, here's the example here where it says without fluent methods,
Mhm.
that this is enough? Or have I reached the point with this particular thing, whatever it is, that I want helper methods that just take away a repetitive nature of, there's some things that it could do, okay? And I'm not trying to say that it applies to this particular thing. For one
Okay.
thing, perhaps setting a particular field affects internal state that a builder, could fix for you, or at
Mhm.
least verify or make sure, look, you can't build one of these things yet because it's not valid yet. Like, I could
Uh,
see that.
okay.
At the same time, I feel like there must be a point of either like where it's really helping or diminishing returns, and really early in the process, I'm not trying to really pass a judgment here.
Yeah.
Early in the process, it could be, well, look, I'm still at the point where this is rapidly changing, so I'm afraid that this is rapidly changing, and now I got to go fix the thing that builds the thing, and
Right.
then I got to go fix the test that use the thing that builds the thing, and that seems, I think what happens is experience is kicking in, right? Is you're
Exactly.
saying, how much work am I making for myself? So without having the experience with using agents, and even what this is about, this feature here,
Mhm.
custom agents in VS Code, that maybe one of the answers is, well, wait a second, you have the agent to help you with what you're afraid of the, like, you can all see the drudgery coming of, oh, if I change one thing, I got to change this thing, and oh my gosh, I don't have the time.
Yeah. I and that's totally fine, right? At some point, I would get comfortable that this TDD coach or this TDD agent would be able to say, "All right, go. I've seen what you can do. Go build the test." I'm not there yet, and I'm kind of using this as a thing to not rely on the copilot to build everything,
Yeah,
but
I
to,
understand.
yeah.
No, I get
So
it. I get it.
okay,
And I think, so I don't want to, we've only got about 20 minutes left, and I want to
yep,
see where we can get. But I
yeah,
feel like, isn't, in a nutshell, this is the whole conversation, and people are running the gamut of, I don't want to use this. It's a crutch. It doesn't know what it's doing. It produces poor quality, whatever. I mean, and then you get to the other end of, like, where people are happily doing essentially vibe coding demonstrations where they're not doing anything that's other than having the conversation with the agent and it's doing it all.
Yeah.
This is probably the real world that's somewhere in the middle here.
We're
You
we're
know?
progressing to that latter example, right?
Yeah.
If we can do this right, if we can get the agent right, we
Yeah.
get the instructions in there the right way, there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to say, "Oh, we wanna add this new feature. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Ask any questions you have. All right, go and create the items in GitHub and go ahead and make it happen and then check back when you're done."
So let me tell you what I like about the approach that I believe I can summarize that you're taking. And
Okay.
I'm going to contrast this with a lot of demos that I see. And the demos
Sure.
come from all over. They're not just
Right.
Microsoft. It's everybody who's demoing this
Mhm.
right now.
We all wanna see that, yeah, see this
One
work.
of the common things I'm seeing in developer relation type videos is let's have, oh, you know what? I've got an existing project and let's have our agent help us with it. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know what we really could use? We could use a lot more unit tests. So have it write a bunch of unit tests. And I'm like, oh, but this is backwards. Like the project's done and now it's going to write some unit tests for it. Where I feel like this approach is where you want to get to is a place where you can say, I have something new to add.
Right.
Let's write the unit tests.
Yes.
And then, so now they're written and then they fail. So we feel comfortable. We could even examine them and say like, yeah, that's definitely the test that I want to pass. And it
Mhm.
now fails. So I'm comfortable even taking the next step of saying, well, now make it pass for me.
Right.
And then it does. And none of your other tests break. And you say, well, this is just what I would have done if I would have pushed through. Right. So
Exactly.
I like this
Little bits of
approach
work.
and I kind of wish it was evangelized a touch more. I get why in a quick demo, it's like, we don't have time to go through it. So maybe that's a road we'll be traveling, right? It's like, hey,
Right.
this could be I don't want to say better way, but a more complete engineering practice.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with leaving to get to the end of it is I'm okay with saying, let's see how this builder works out.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the other hurdles we've got to jump through. So
Yeah.
you see how we're not just saying, "Hey, go do this,"
Right.
and say, "That's great, let's drop it in,"
Yeah.
which is what we tried to do on Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
And I'm being a little more thoughtful about this. So now that well, what's Fluent Methods? Help me understand. You're my coach, right? So I think when we get to here, this problem came up. And that's why I started by saying, all right, what are our classes? What are our interfaces? What are we basically base class and building off of? And it built the test focused on the metadata definition, which is our base class, and not the actual implementation of those metadatas, which is the event type.
Yeah. And
Status
you let it here where it's saying in the first bullet point, okay.
Yep. Well, and then I asked,
Yeah.
The important part, which is all this is explained in the metadata and it's
Right.
not referenced.
Right.
So why?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we have to attack that problem later because the apply to must have something in there that's not seeing
Right.
as this, even though
those metadata definition tasks are included in the apply to. So I've got to dig into that a little bit. So as always, Copilot is agreeable and hey, it was an excellent catch. You're absolutely right. We should be testing the actual behavior, not just the base class.
So it started
So-
reverbing really.
Really bad?
Yeah, and now it stopped. Okay, go ahead. I don't know.
All right.
I'm really sorry. I
I-
know it must be frustrating.
Yeah, because I don't hear it.
I know. And I'm not touching anything, so I'm sitting there trying to figure out what setting can I change? But
Right. Okay. Let me step back a little bit. So basically we started to switch things up and move away from the metadata definition to an actual, in this case, we're focused
Yep.
on event status definition. So running through that gave me some options for doing that. I think we asked, is this where we then asked, let's run it first, see if it passes. That's fine. That test did not get run, if I understand right. Yeah, it didn't run it the first time around. Now it ran it and it's red. Perfect, right? That's
right.
kind of what we want. We got a failure that we're expecting no content and instead we got no results found. So looking at why it's failing, the mock is configured for the metadata definition, right? So the mock item is expecting that type, and we know we want to move it to the event status type. So that's, I believe that's what we're doing here, because we started to go down this path of basically swapping things out for event status. And then we started getting in this question of, well, should it be any metadata definition, or should it really be the iMetadata item?
Hmm.
Right? Should we do we care that it's anything that's a base class of meta definition, or is it anything that implements that interface? And I was thinking the interface was the better way to go
Yeah. Okay.
because it's more flexible. And yeah, so that was kind of the path I went down. So I basically started to fix that out and then do the metadata, and then we started getting into this interesting discussion. If you see here, right, I've got an range of, hey, this item to update, that's an implementation of our class. And then down here in our mock repository, I'm creating a completely separate item.
Hmm.
Which to me seems, well, why? How does that test what I've arranged? Now, they do compare. I think down here we do basically do a compare between those two, between the item that's in the arrange and what got thrown in the object. But
So can you bring the item to update back up again?
yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. Because it seems like, was the point of this test that just, for example, that instead the original value should have been, instead of it saying updated dash value, maybe it's original value, and you're proving that the item
Got updated. That is a good question, but not one that we were.
Yeah, like, did it make a mistake there or not? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was focused on, hey, I'm setting new values down here. So I think the next place we wound up going was, so if this is what our item to update is, then just bring those properties over
Oh, okay.
and use that as the object that you're updating. Because in the past when we did this, we didn't have it is a metadata item. We basically says, well, here's the item to update, and we basically pass that in here. And there's no way to do that in this update metadata item async method. I basically get an object. That's it. So that's kind of yeah. So I think it's kind of as far as we had gotten. We were just starting to implement this bit, and which we did, and it passed. So now, so it calls us success, saying we completed one successful round of red green passing, even though it's only the test that passed because we did the test the right way this time. So I think we're now at kind of that next step of looking at some of the validation ones or duplicate name validation, because those are things I wanted to make sure that we check for when someone goes to save what's going on there.
So this is interesting because I don't know if this is a thing. Like, I may be making something up.
Okay.
I'm gonna try searching for something.
You want to share something?
No, this wasn't what I thought it would be. So let me just say this, and it's totally naive. Do you ever sometimes get the feeling that, like, you understand the phrase gaming the system?
Yeah.
That AI conversations can get to a place where they're trying to, like, game an outcome just to make you smile. Like, sometimes when I respond to it and it says, gosh, you're absolutely right, I say, whoa, I wanted to be challenged a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I go, and that's where I get, I'm not saying that this was a bad exercise. I'm saying that, like, so what did we come out with here? What did we end up with? We ended up with an update method using put, right? Like, technically, when we get down to brass tacks, we have a put endpoint that we we showed it worked with one test, but I wasn't sure that the test actually updated anything.
Because
Although,
it was not right. It didn't really.
yeah, yeah,
So you're right. So the test doesn't pull a value, have an initial value
uh-huh,
and say, here's the change, go update it. Even though I suppose it could. The mock probably has that capability in
yeah,
it. Because we had the method, and part of the reason this might be backfilling the test so that we can do other things is we had an update endpoint that would update the metadata in the Cosmos database, but we didn't have a test for it, and that was what that did.
hmm
So that kind of gives the test. So the fact that it was, once we got the test organized properly with the right values, um, it basically passed. And
yeah,
it's passing in a way such that I don't need to have the base class of metadata definition. It understands that if I pass it event status, that what I'm looking for it to do is to create a type
okay.
of event status with those values in there.
So the more valuable thing is that you got a foundation out of this, that future
Yes.
tests that apply to specific implementations of an iMetadata item we can test those.
Yep.
And and uh and again, it is a unit test. I don't want to slip into integration tests where, I see a lot of people now making videos, doing content, really, really happy with integration tests, saying that they're getting tons of value out of them. And I
Mhm.
think in this world today where we tend to have more powerful machines and we can spin up containers, um, that you could very quickly spin up in this particular case, the Azure Cosmos DB emulator, put some dummy but known, some known state data in there, run a bunch
Yeah.
of integration tests. It changes the state the way you expect. You call it a day, but that's still integration tests. So
Yeah.
one
And I
thing,
think there's a place for that
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
We have
So
some of those here.
one thing I want to ask you if you want to do, I'm going to switch to my screen real quick,
Yeah, go
and
for
I
it.
don't know if that means it's easier for you to see, but we don't quite have this set up very well, do we? Where you have a good way to look at this. Did you mute on accident? Did I mute you?
No, I muted.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay, okay.
So if I stop sharing and you
Oh yeah, you
share,
didn't have to because I can flip pretty quickly, but
right? But you're flipping local. You're not
yeah, I'm
sharing back.
flipping locally. I need to, so that's something I got to work on to help you out here. So here's that documentation page I found, custom agents in VS Code, and I've noticed that you
Okay.
are using a chat modes folder, right? Is that right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't know if you want to try this with time winding down because people who want to use this stuff are not going to. Oh, that's something I got to work on to help you out here. Do what you did. They're theoretically going to. It says VS Code still recognizes chatmode.md. However, you can use a quick fix action to rename and move them to the new GitHub agents folder with an agent MD extension. And just because,
Oh,
just
it might have been when
because
I created that.
Yeah, sure. Right. When they were still called chat modes.
Yeah.
Because they even say here custom agents were previously known as custom chat modes. So do we want to try this, since people in the audience, if they read this article, they're not going to call it chatmode.md. They're not going to put it in a chat modes folder. They're going to do this. And it even it says a quick fix action can do it. So
Really?
it says you can use
All
a
right.
quick fix action to rename and move them, the chatmode.md files, to the new .github agents folder with a .agent.md extension. So I think if you're, okay, I wasn't sure if you were set up to. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can
Sorry.
flip back to you.
Yep. Let me do this.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
And I know that I know I can share my screen out to you. I just didn't think about it this morning. So
All good.
anyways, that way you don't have to
So
do what you just did.
yeah. So is there?
If you right click on one of those chat mode MDs, is there any kind of quick, or I don't know, maybe you know better.
Yeah, there wasn't.
You
And
can
that
use
was
a
what I was
quick
hoping for.
fix action.
And now I've lost your screen over there because it's me now.
Okay, hold on.
I would have thought that there was a prompt. Oh, It's probably fix. That's MS SQL. No. So all of these are prompts. That slash is like a shortcut to the prompts, and some of those come from MCP components. You can see over here on the right where those pieces actually come from. So just finding one that says fix isn't really the one that I'm looking for. Interesting. Now, quick fix is also a thing here under.
Well, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean because I've seen times where it just in line it says there's this quick fix thing.
What's that? Let me get rid of this so I can see it a little better. Open inline chat, which is this.
I mean, I don't know that we have to get too crazy about it because all it's saying to do is change the folder name from chat modes to agents.
Okay, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
It's easier than me trying to find where the agents live. Was it lowercase or uppercase?
Just lowercase. Lower. Yeah. And then the extension is .agent .md instead of .chat mode. And you don't have a ton of these.
Makes sense.
So I would be curious, like, does it work now that you've done all that? I suppose it does.
Do we still see it? All right, so we still have our TDD coach, right?
Right.
And we can still bring back in this, which is the current conversation.
Yeah.
Say, so which validation should we tackle next? Yes, let's. The duplicate value test. Boom. Yeah, that's still troublesome. I got to fix that.
So anyways, the only reason I was suggesting that is just so that way somebody watching it now or in the future doesn't, first of all, down below that particular piece of documentation is linked in the show notes. But if you're just watching and you say, I'm going to follow along, I'm going to start making an agent. And apparently this, again, it says it still recognizes the older files and it clearly recognizes the older file structure. Perhaps that was like when it was in, I guess this is not just in preview. This
this got released.
Yeah. Okay. This is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So let me make sure. So I'm just going to, this is where we have been working because we're all in that region of, right. So update valid event status. Let's do this here. So I come down and I go like this. Boom. Cool. We can just drop that in. And we can say save. And then we can say, let's run the test. We did.
Well,
update metadata item duplicate. Yeah. All right. So, yeah.
So that test is interesting though. It shows an item to update. The ID wouldn't change, would it?
The ID shouldn't change.
But see how.
Yeah.
I feel like line 343 should be test.
Well, no. Okay. So here's the ID.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's the ID of the thing that would change. So it won't change this one, but it should change this one.
Oh, I got you.
The original value before update.
Okay.
Cool. Good catch. So it also triggers a duplicate because this one is here. And we're also going to check for duplicate. So this one is checking for a duplicate value. Okay. Is there, no, that's references. So if I just do this and give me
terminal and I do I think I'll overrun all of them, but that's the quickest command than trying to navigate down into the so one failed. Hey. And the one that failed is this one, right? Error message expected type ASP.NET Core, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're at red.
Yep.
And then now we can go ahead and do the hey. Is that on your end?
Yeah.
Okay. So test is failing. So now we've got, a method that we can implement in our invoke metadata item endpoint helper method. That's interesting that we're updating a helper method instead of the code.
Well,
So
this
this might be
particular helper method does return an I result.
Yeah. And I don't think, let me see. That's not replace, sorry. File, no. Shoot, orbital, there, paste. No matching results. Huh. This might be where we pick it up on Monday.
Yeah.
To let you get the stand up.
All right. I'm going to switch back to us here.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely not, besides being a work in progress, it's like a work in progress up here too, understanding how to build a custom agent and the things we can do with it. There's some interesting features that are discussed in the documentation. For example, handoffs, which I don't think you've implemented.
No, not yet.
So that's, that's I think that's interesting. So all right. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I think the point of going through all this is more than just chat.
oh yeah,
right.
right.
If we set it up the right way, you're going to get the right results back.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is trying to understand how there's more to this world than just like chat and do it for me. This is more of, like you said, it's sort of having a paired programming partner.
Yeah.
At the same time that you're kind of teaching how you want the application to work, I guess, and then so that, or
Mhm.
maybe not so much the application, your development process to work, so that you can
there you go.
so that you can speed up on things. So no, it'll be interesting to continue with this. All I can say right now is hopefully it's a great weekend.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at what weather or anything's going to be like, but so but I think it's going to be sunny and maybe a touch cold where we're at, but I don't know that it's going to be that bad. So
Good day for working outside.
yeah, definitely. A nice fall day. All right. Well, hey, Rich, first of all, I want to thank you for walking us through that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see. I'm kind of excited now to see what can I do with this, and we'll keep at it. So if you're watching now or in the future, thank you for joining us, especially if you made it this far. Don't forget, if you like what we're doing, to hit the like button, and go ahead and ask any questions and comments. Those are great. And you can always find on YouTube, youtube.com/the Dev Talk Show. You can always find recordings. So for Rich, I am Chris, and we'll see you all next time on the Dev Talk Show.